on the vertical axis, the real output on the horizontal axis, and we can go vertical SE line, downward sloping IS, and upward sloping MM. We can find that these three curves intersect at point E. At point E, we have the general equilibrium. That is, all the markets are simultaneously in equilibrium at point E. We call it a general equilibrium. So each curve represents one equilibrium in the market. The asset market, the goods market, and the labor market. When these three curves intersect at point E, this is the general equilibrium. All the three markets are in equilibrium at the same time. Of course, this is ideal economy when all the three markets are in equilibrium. But for our analysis, theoretical analysis, so we usually assume the economy starts from the general equilibrium. That is, we start from here. And then we are going to analyze how the economy is affected due to different types of shocks. So first, we define the general equilibrium. That is the intersection of these three curves. All three markets are in equilibrium at the same time. All right, let's look at an application of a temporary adverse supply shock. How the supply shock affects the economy. Suppose we start from the general equilibrium on E, and the output is equal to full employment level of output, Y bar. Now, suppose the productivity declines, and we call it an adverse supply shock or negative supply shock. Then what happens to the economy? So first, which market is affected? Labor market, yes. So the labor market is affected. You can draw the labor market by the real wage, labor demand, labor supply. So initially we have N1 bar, the initial equilibrium. Now with the negative supply shock. So which curve will shift? Labor supply or labor demand? Yes, the labor demand, because the marginal product of the labor is affected. MPN is affected. So the labor demand curve, it will shift to the left. So what happens to the equilibrium of employment? It decreases to N2 bar. Alright? So the fall in A lead to fall in the employment in equilibrium. Then what happens to full employment output? This is the Martian function. The productivity A declines. Also, employment falls. What happened to the full employment output?
False.
Yes, the Y bar declines. So suppose originally Y bar is Y1 bar, FE line is FE1. Now suppose the Y bar declines to Y2 bar. So the FE line should shift left or right? Yes. The FE line shift left. FE2. Say FE2. FE2 corresponds to the new full employment output, Y2 bar. Y2 bar corresponds to N2 bar. Alright? This is about the labor market equilibrium. The aggregate, so the full employment output represents the optimal level of output desired by the economy. But now, the aggregate demand, which is determined by the intersection of LM and IS. Remember, IS represents aggregate demand for goods, and also LM represents the aggregate demand for money. So the aggregate demand for the economy is determined by the intersection of LM and IS. So what's the intersection of LM IS? It's still at point E. It's still at point E. So the aggregate demand for the economy is still at point E, which is equal to Y1 bar. This is original equilibrium. So after the shock, the desired optimal level of output has been reduced to Y2 bar, which is lower than aggregate demand. In other words, now the aggregate demand is too high. Aggregate demand is still at Y1 bar. It's too high. What's going to happen? The firms will raise the prices. So price level will go up in the economy. The price will go up. When price goes up, which curve will shift? Yes, the LM curve will shift. How does the LM curve shift? So
because the price increases, which reduces the supply is the supply. The demand, the real demand of money.
yeah, reduce the real money supply. When T goes up, real money supply declines. Real money supply declines. N over P declines. So, it declines. Therefore, the equilibrium interest rate will go up. So, how should the LM curve shift? Goes up. The LM curve should shift up and to the left. So the increase in the price level will lead to fall in the real money supply, and therefore the LM curve will shift up. Shift up and to the right or to the left until the new LM curve intersects with the new FE line and the IS curve intersect at one point, say on F. So the LM curve, say LM2, will shift up and to the left due to the rise in the price. The price goes up because demand is higher than the desired supply. Demand is determined by the intersection of LM and IS. Demand is too high, the firms will raise the price. Price goes up, the LM curve will shift up and restore the general equilibrium where the new LM curve, new FE line, and the IS curve intersect at one point F. The next week, we are going to formally construct the relationship between the price and aggregate output. real output. That is the ADAS model.
Well, the price level adjustment, is it a given or is it like intuitive, like we need to know that price level?
It is, this is the adjustment endogenous in the economy. So when the aggregate demand higher than the supply, the firms will increase the price. So all firms in the economy raise the price. So the aggregate price level will go up. This is the adjustment mechanism in the economy. And this is how the economy tend to restore the equilibrium generally. This is you can call it economic force. The force, the imbalance between aggregate demand and aggregate supply will push the price to go up. Yes.
Roughly, how is the demand rate higher than the supply rate? Which curves?
The aggregate demand is determined by the intersection of LM and IS. In this case, the intersection of LM, IS is point E. So temporarily, after the shock, demand is at point E, which corresponds to output Y1 bar. And Y1 bar is higher than the desired supply. This is the new labor market equilibrium. This is the desired labor supply and output supply. So demand is higher or too high, it will push up the price level. When price level goes up, the LM curve shifts to the left and up. And it will restore the general equilibrium. And this is how the economy generally restores the general equilibrium. After the shock, we will face a deviation of aggregate demand and aggregate supply, and then the price will adjust. So you need to determine the price will go up or go down to restore the general equilibrium. Yes.
Prof, you mentioned that the aggregate demand is more than the aggregate supply, right? So you determine this by looking at Y1 and Y2.
Yes. Y1 is the intersection of LM and IS. IS is the aggregate demand for goods. LM is the aggregate demand for money. So the intersection of LM, IS determines aggregate demand, which is Y1. And FE line determines the desired supply, that is full employment level of output, that is the desired supply of goods in the economy. So right now, the LM and IS determines the aggregate demand is at point E, which is the original equilibrium. And it corresponds to the output equals to Y1 bar. So this is not the desired level by the firms. The firms produce too much, they will require higher price, they raise the price, and when price goes up, the LM curve will shift to the left and up until it reaches point F. Once we reach the point F, the aggregate demand will be equal to the desired supply, that is Y2 bar. So FE line shift to the left due to the shock. And this shock leads to the deviation of the aggregate demand with the desired supply. Then the price will adjust to restore the general equilibrium. When price adjusts, the LM curve shift in order to restore the general equilibrium. You can see after the shock, price level goes up, output declines, also employment declines, the real wage also declines, and consumption investment declines because the income declines, interest rate rises, consumption investment both decline. But consumption investment declines along the IS curve. consumption even decline because of lower income, that is lower Y, higher interest. Okay. This is along the IS curve. IS curve does not shift in this case. Both the change in the real interest and the change in Y would lead to a movement along the IS curve. Okay, so the average consumption investment lead to the fall of aggregate demand along the IS curve. That is from E to F along this way. Investment, consumption decline. So there's no effect of the temporary supply shock on IS curve, but price will shift the LM curve. Okay. So it will lead to the inflation because the price goes up, and real interest rate is also higher compared on E to on F. The real interest rate in equilibrium goes up, the consumption and saving must decline. Real wage, employment, output decline, the real interest and price are higher. These are the consequences of the shock. Temporary annual supply shock. And in the exercise questions, you will have more chance to deal with different types of shocks. So today we introduce the general equilibrium framework, which relate the real output with the real interest rate. And next week we are going to construct the relationship between the price and the real output, the price level and real output. They are the same general equilibrium framework, just show different relationships depending on the research question. Okay, so next week we are going to show the relationship between price and real output. Yes.
The relationship between price and real output. If the aggregate demand being too high, then firm raises prices. Isn't there already like a relationship between price and
Yes.
so is
But
that
this graph didn't explicitly show the relationship between price and the real output. Okay, let me summarize. Today we introduced the general equilibrium framework. The first, we constructed the epic line from the labor market. It's a vertical straight line. And we analyze the shifters of the FE line, that is the shocks on the labor market. Then for the IS curve, we constructed from the goods market equilibrium. We find a negative correlation between the real interest and the real output in the goods market. And we discuss the shifters. For the LM curve, it is derived from the asset market. We find that the positive correlation between the real interest and the aggregate output in the asset market. So LM curve is upward sloping. So in the end, we construct the IS LM general equilibrium framework. So we put all the three curves together. So when these three curves intersect at one point, we reach the general equilibrium. Okay, so we are going to use this general equilibrium to discuss the shocks and what are the impact on aggregate cost. Any question before we move on to the exercise question? Okay, if no question, let's do some exercise. For this exercise question, you don't need to discuss how the economy restores the general equilibrium. Just show what are the effects on this IS, LM, lines due to different shocks. And And also please show the separate market diagram so that we can see how the curve looks. Okay, no need to analyze how the economy risk or general equilibrium, just show the direct effect of the shock. Which curve is affected? IS, LM, FE,